Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we are creating some incredible energy orbs VFX in Unreal Engine 5. These orbs can be used for many applications such as a cool looking pickup effect for health or mana or even an item. This can also be used for a projectile to another level. There are so many incredible uses for this orb. We will make the simplest first like this one, and from there we will use the stuff we already made to build the next effect by adding extra elements to the first one. So there is a great progression with each effect we create. I will show you how to create 3 of these projectiles and the rest are for my patrons on Patreon. The first one we will create is this electric orb with crackling electric arc inside a cool reflective sphere. This reflection is fake and the reflection is added inside the material, and the electric vortex is just a single material. The second one we are going to create is this magic pulse orb. It has these amazing distorted rings and a streak of dark energy pulsing outward. This can be customized in many ways. And now the third one we are going to create is this fiery orb, which has this really bright searing core that glows within the smoky shell, surrounded by this dark aura and ember particles. This can be like an exploding projectile that moves to your player. This is similar to the VFX I saw on God of War. So this is what we are going to be creating today. And if you want to get the entire project file along with these additional 5 effects, this energy core effect, this anomaly effect, this pickup effect with some nice smoke around it and lighting, this cool portal like effect that I saw on God of War, not the exact effect but very similar, and this healing type effect. So this is almost like a marketplace pack, and you will get all of these files from my Patreon for $5, and you will also be able to download all the project files from my past 6 years from there. And yes, this is also for that $5. And if you are already my patron, thank you very much for supporting me. It means a lot to me. And also, if you can leave a like and subscribe, it will help out my channel a lot. Thank you. So first we will make this electric orb effect. For that, right click, then go to material and create a material called M underscore electric orb. Then open this up. Now change the blend mode here to translucent and the shading model here to unlit. So we will only have this MC color and the opacity. So here for the sphere we need to add a rim light effect. For that we could use either the Fresnel effect or a cheaper version of the Fresnel effect ourselves. To create that we can right click, then get a vertex normal, and get a dot product, and now get a camera vector and connect this here and connect this to the opacity. Now here you can see a effect like this. So it is basically anything that is directly facing the camera has a value of 1. If I connect this to the MC color, you can see that it has a value of 1 and the edges will have a value of 0. And it's a smooth gradient from 1 at the middle to 0 at the edges. So if we 1 minus this, we can get the rim light effect that we want. And now we need to get a particle color. So we can get the color from the Niagara system to our material. Now we can multiply this with the particle color here and connect this to the MC color. And now here we can get a power node and set this to like 16. So we get a rim light effect like this. And now we need to add some reflections to it. So in order to add some fake reflections to it, we can use a cube map. So here in this preview window, you can see a cube map being used. Here they are using a cube map of a building and a blue sky. This is in HDR. So we can use this to add a fake reflection to our material. So in order to get a cube map, we can go to the content browser. Then we can go to the engine here. If this is not visible, you can go to settings, and here you can click show engine contents and plugin contents. And here you can type in cube map and get this cube map, tcubemap01, and bring that in. And then we can add this with our particle color. So we will get an error here. This is because we need to connect a UV here, but our normal UV won't go here. We need to connect a reflection vector. So right click and get a reflection vector and connect this here. So we have this fake reflection. we can also tone this down a bit by getting a multiply and multiplying this by 0.2. So it will be a bit darker, but this will be perfect for us. So we have something like this now. Here you can see the fake reflections. Now click apply. Now we will create this vortex effect in the center. For that, right click, then material and m_vortex, then open it up. This one also we will set to unlit and translucent. And to get a vortex texture, first we will get our texture. For that, go to the engine and here type in laser and get this laser power texture and bring that in. Now we need a vortex effect. For that, we can get a texture coordinate by pressing and holding U and clicking, and an add node and add -0.5 to it. And if I preview this, we get a texture coordinate like this one. We will use this to pan the texture from the center, but before that we need to multiply this by 2 also. Now get a vector to radial node. This will change the UV coordinates to a radial direction. I will show you what that does. So if I connect this here and connect this here, and if I preview this, if I just connect this to the MC and stop previewing, we get something like this. So here you can see these annoying lines. This is due to the MIP levels. So in order to fix that, we can go to the texture and change the MIP value to derived. So we will create our own. So in order to do that, we need to create that from this new texture coordinate. So in order to do that, you can drag from here and type in ddx and ddy and connect this to the ddx and ddy here. So that annoying lines are gone now. Now we can get a panel and connect this here and connect this here and give -3 here. So it's really fast. So give -0.3. Maybe we can give -1 and 0.3 here. Now we can also control the tiling by getting a multiply and connecting it here between these two nodes. And now if I increase this value, you can see that there is more lines, but you can also individually control the x and y coordinates. So if I press and hold 2 and click, I get this 2 vector. If I connect this here and change this to 1 and change this to 2, we get something like this. I can increase this to 3 or 5. So here you can experiment with this to get different results. I will set this to 2. So now we will get something like this. Now I will just duplicate this texture and connect the ddx and ddy here, and I will multiply them together like this. And here we can just duplicate both of these two and connect this here and connect this here and connect this to the MC. So we get an effect like this. Now change the value of x to 2 and this to 3. And for the panel, give a value of 1 and 0.4. Now we can get a radial gradient and multiply this with the radial gradient and connect this to the opacity. So here you can see that it is not visible. So to make this visible, we can get a multiply and set the value to like 3 and connect this to the opacity and the MC color. And here connect the red channel and the red channel. We don't really want the RGB. Now increase the value to like 5. So it's fine for now. We will make this more visible later. Now we can get a particle color node and multiply it with this one and connect this to the MC. And also multiply the alpha with the texture and then connect this to the opacity. Now click apply and save. Now we will create our particle system. For that, right click, then click on Niagara system, then click next here and then select the single looping particle and click add and finish. And now we can call this NS, then open this up. Here we can duplicate this single looping particle and I will rename this one to sphere. And here go to the render and click add mesh renderer. Since we need to spawn a sphere here, now disable the sprite renderer. We don't really need that. And here now for the mesh, we can get editor sphere. It's really big. So we can go to the initialize particle here and set the mesh scale mode to uniform here and set the value to like 0.8 2 or maybe like 0.4. And now for the material, we can tick enable material overrides here and go to override material and click on the add elements here and then expand this and get our electric orb material and bring that in. And now we can drag our orb in like this. So when I move, it is not moving with it. So in order to make that move with the particle instantly, we can go to the Niagara system and we can go to properties and click local space and also tick local space here. Now it will move with the emitter. Now we can add our vortex. For that, we can just duplicate this again and I will call this vortex. And for the sprite render, I will give this material. And for the size, I will give 150. And now here go to the color mode and set this to direct set and get an yellow color like this. You can increase the value if you want. So it will give a nice looking vortex like this. Now we need to add a very bright glow in the center. We will use this. So I will just duplicate this again. And this one, center, maybe we could just click on the sprite render here. And if I untick this, we get a center here like this. And if I go here and go to the color mode and direct set and set the yellow color, you can see the yellow here and here. So we have that. Now we can add a really subtle black blue color here. So for that, tick this and go to the sprite render. And for here, you can just search radial ramp. So it will give a nice glow. Now if I just increase the size to like 200 or something like that, we can get this. Now go to the color mode and direct set and set this value to like a blue color and reduce the value like this. And now we have a similar effect. We can also go here and set the opacity to like 0.5. So it's very subtle. And here the reflection is a bit too much. Maybe we can go to the electric orb and the reflection we can set to like 0.05 or something like that. That's not visible. So set that to like 0.1. Now we have our effect. We can also reduce the size of this vortex if you want to contain it between the sphere. But that's it for the electric vortex. Now we can add some lights to it. So go to the vortex and go to the center. Now here untick this. We don't really need that right now. Now go to the renderer here and click on light render. And for the radius scale, set this to like 6000. And for the color add like 10,000 for red and green. So the first one represent the red and the second one represent the green value and the third one represent the blue value. Here you can see that in the axis mapping, the x is red and y is green and the c is blue. So 10,000 in x and y will give a yellow color like this. You can also experiment with the color add and the radius, etc. So now we can add some distortions to this also. So in order to add some distortion to it, you can go to the starter content, then particles, then material, then get this heat distortion. Then go to the looping particle here and add that. So add this heat distortion material to this one and increase the size to like 300. So it's really big. Now go to the dynamic parameter. Now just open the heat distortion. So here you can see with the dynamic parameter, we can increase the refraction from 1 to 1.5 using the red channel. So we can change that in the particle system. So first I will just rename this to distortion. Then I will go to the initialize particle, then type in dynamic parameter, then add a value of 1. And then you can see the rotations here. So this is what we want. And here also I will just set the vortex size to like 120. So it will be inside the sphere if that's the look you want. You can also change the inside color to much darker blue if you want. But this is it for the electric orb. Now let's create this pulse orb effect. So for that we need to create a ring like effect that you can see here, and also some streak of color like this one. So now to create this rings, we can create a new material, and I will call this M rings. Then open it up, then change the blend mode to translucent and the shading model to unlit. So if you only want like a really bright ring and not any dark colors, you can also use additive, which is a bit more cheaper than translucent. But here I'm just going to use translucent because we can also change that to a very dark ring if you want. So now to create this ring, get a radial gradient and get a cosine node. There are other ways to create a ring like this by subtracting it, but I found out that it is better to create it using a cosine since it gives a really nice soft edge on both sides. So if I just 1 minus this, you can see that it's really soft from the inside and also the outside. This is what we want. Now we can subtract some values from it and saturate this so the values won't go above or below 1. Maybe change this value to like 0.2 or something like that. Now here I made a mistake. We need to add some values to it. So like 1, and now we will get a ring like this. Now we can distort this a little bit. For that we need to get some textures. So go to the starter content, then go to texture, then type in water, then get the water normal. And here we need to add this to the UV. So get a UV coordinate by pressing and holding U and clicking. Then get an add node and connect this to the UV here. Now get a mask and only tick R and G here. So if I expand this, you can see that it only has green and red values. So we can only add R and G to it. We can add any two vectors to it, not just R and G. We can also add R and B or G and B, etc. As long as both of them are two vectors, we can add them together because both are two vectors. So connect that here. Now we get a distorted look like this. Now here we can get a panner and give a value of 0.1. And here we can give a value of 0.3. So it goes like this. Now we need to modulate these values using a dynamic parameter. So get a dynamic parameter and get a multiply and connect this to the multiply here. So if I change the default value of this to 0, you can see that it is just a ring like this. And now here we can get a particle color node and multiply this with the alpha. So we can fade this in a bit. And here we can also get a multiply and multiply this with like 0.1. So it is really subtle. It's barely visible. Now we can get a multiply and connect this here and connect this to this one. And now we can also add a really bright ring in the center by powering this by 16 and multiplying this with the particle color, and now add that back in, not to multiply. We are just adding it on top of each other. If you multiply, this value also get lower because of the multiply here. So just add that back in and connect this to the MC. So we get a ring like this. Now click apply. So this is our ring. Now we need to create this dark streak like effect that you can see below the rings. So in order to do that, right click, material, M and streaks, then open the material up, then set this to translucent and shading model to unlit like before. Now here we need the smoke texture. So go to the content browser, then starter content, and here type in smoke and bring the smoke texture in. Now we need to create a streak from this. So in order to do that, press and hold U and click. So we get this textured coordinate. And if we subtract 0.5 from it, we get something that we got earlier for the vortex. But this time we can just normalize this. Now if I just connect this to the MC, we can get these streaks. And if you want to make them move around, we can just get a panner and give a value of 1 here. So it kind of moves around like this. Now get a radial gradient. And here we will just subtract these streaks from the radial gradient. And now we get some interesting effect like this one. So this is what we want. And now we can get a particle color node and multiply this with the alpha here. And also multiply that with the RGB. So we get the color also. Now we have our streaks. We can also power this by 2 by getting a multiply and connecting it like this. This is like powering this value by 2. It will just increase the contrast a little bit. So now we have an interesting effect like this one. So this is our streak. So click apply. Now we will create our particle system. For that, we can just duplicate our vortex, and this time I will call this magical. Then open this up. So here we don't really need our sphere. So just disable that. And for the vortex, we will get our streaks. So just get that. And it's really bright. So just change the color to really dark color like this. And if you want, you can also set the opacity to like 0.2 or something like that. So it's barely visible. Now here bring in the sphere and tick that and just untick the mesh render. And for the color, we can give a pink color like this. And now we need to duplicate the center and add the rings. So I will call this rings. Now here we need to make the rings expand. So in order to do that, we can go to the emitter state, then change this to self and change the loop behavior to infinite. So it will loop infinitely and we can increase the scale of each particles. Now for the render, here we can add our ring and now it is at 200. I can change the color to like this. It's really visible. Now here we can set this color to like 1. So it's only a little bit visible. Now we can go back to the ring material and here I will multiply this with like 1000. So the center will be more brighter. Now if I press play, it's really bright. I think I will multiply this by 10 and we can increase the power to like 160 or something like that. So now we get this nice looking rings. I can also add 1.2 or 0.9, maybe 1.1. So if I increase the power again here, it will concentrate more and more on the center point, but it has a limit. You can also subtract this value to get more of a ring, but this is fine. I will set this value to like 30 and click apply. Now we can drag our magical orb here. So we get something similar to this. Here I will set this value to like this and a green value like this one. So we have something like this. Now we need to expand this. So go to the ring again and go to the particle update. Then go to scale, sprite size. So we can use this module to scale the sprite size from 0 to 1 here. And if I go here to click this smooth ramp up, we get a really smooth effect like this. And here we can go to the rings again and untick spawn. And here go to the emitter update and type in rate and spawn rate and set this to like 5. So now you can see that it is spawning like this. And here change the lifetime mode to like 1. So we get this effect. And here you can see that it is terminating like this and it's very jarring. So in order to fix that, we can go to the particle update again and type in color and scale color. And now here we can control the alpha to fade it out when it is fully expanded. So we can click here and type in curve. So we can scale the alpha using a curve value. And I will just click this ramp down. And here I can click this and change the curve like this. So it will ramp down really fast and I can adjust it as much as I want. Now we can go back here and remember we have a dynamic parameter connected that controls the distortion. So we can go back here and in the particle update type in dynamic material parameter and we have this parameter 1 and if I change this to 1, you can see that it is really distorting the rings. And here we can also go to initialize particle and change the sprite rotation mode to random. So it is randomly rotating every time it spawns. And now go back to the scale. Now go back to the dynamic parameter and here we need to control this value with the curve also, like the scale and the color. So we can go here and type in curve and float from curve. And here for the maximum value of the curve or the scale, we can give it a value of 0.5. Here you can see that it is going from a perfect ring to a distorted ring. So we can go back here, and so to get a perfect ring, the value should be 0, and for the distortion, the value should be 1. So we need to invert this. So click the smooth ramp up, and here we can just change the value like this. And now here we can change the maximum value, so it won't be that distorted, like 0.2 or 0.35. Now we have a distortion like this, and now we need to add some particles that fly from the center. So in order to do that, go back to the particle system, then add emitter, then add a fountain, and the fountain will make the particle go up like this, but we don't really want that. Here we don't really want the gravity force, and here in the add velocity we need to add velocity in all direction, not just the up direction. So in order to do that, we can go to the velocity mode and set this to from a point, so it will add the velocity from the center to everywhere. Now we need to slow this down a bit, so change this to 120 and 200, and now we need to decrease the lifetime and also the spawn rate. So change the spawn rate to like 30, and now go to the initialize particle, and here we can change the lifetime minimum to 0.5 and 1, so it will only go this much. And now we also need to change the size, because we don't really want this to be this big. So change the uniform sprite size min to 2 and the max to like 5, and now we have an effect like this. And now here we need to scale the color, so we can go to the scale color, and here you can see the scale RGB. We can type in linear color, and we get this color value. We can use a curve to scale this. So here this value should be like a ping value like this, maybe like 20, and 19 for red and 20 for blue. And this value we can set this to like black. And now we can increase the size of the streak. It is a vortex here, so I will increase the size to like 30. I will increase the size to like 220, so it's really big. We have a center color here. We can change that to like a green color or like a blue color like this. I will set that to like a black color, maybe like this one. And for the streak, I will set this to like 0.6. And here for the green of the ring, I will increase the color to like 10. Maybe that's a bit too much, maybe like 2. So now we have our magical effect like this one. Now we will create this fire orb effect. So for that we need 2 additional things. So the first one is this sphere effect, that is bright on the inside and dark on the outside. And the second one is this vortex like smoke effect. So in order to create the sphere, right click, then material, then call it m_fire orb, then open it up. So here we need a 2-sided material, because we need to show both the outside and also the inside of the material of the mesh. So click 2-sided, then change the shading model to unlit, and this time the blend mode is, because we don't really need a translucent effect, we just need a hard transparency. So it's either fully see-through or not. So that's what mask is. So in order to get this effect, we need 2 textures for this one. So go to the starter content and get the smoke, and also get the fire texture. We need both these textures. Now get a UV coordinate and a panner and connect this here, and now get a multiply and a panner again, and connect this here and connect this here by duplicating it. Now multiply both of them together, so we get an interesting effect like this. So here if I change the tiling to 2, it won't match up exactly, and we will get an interesting texture look. So here if I just start previewing, we will get an interesting look like this. And here for the panel, I will give a value of 0.5 and 0.5, and here I will give a value of 0.2 and 0.9. So we will get an interesting pan effect like this. So here you can see some issues with the panning. Here you can see some artifacts. This is because of the new anti-aliasing system in Unreal Engine. You can either disable this or you can fix this by getting a previous frame switch node and connecting it to the world position. And here we can just connect a 0 to the current frame, and for the previous frame a value of 1 because of the panning speed should work. So if I just stop previewing and connect this to the MC, you can see that there is no issue now. But if I just disconnect that, you can see the artifacts. So just connect that. Now here we need to make the insides visible. So we can just connect this to the multiply. So now you can see that the inside and the outside. So in order to give two colors to the inside and the outside, we can get a node called two-sided node. It outputs either 1 or 0. If the surface is outside, it will output 1, and the surface is inside, it will output 0. So if I just get a lerp and connect this to the MC, here you can see that the value is, if it is outside, the value is 1 because of B, and if it is inside, the value is 0 because of the two-sided node. And here for the A, we can get a particle color node and connect this directly like this. And for the outside, we need a really darker color of whatever color this is. So if we give a very bright red color, it needs to be a really dark red color on the outside. And if it's a really bright blue color in the inside, we need to have a really dark blue color in the outside. So in order to get that, we can first saturate this. So the value will be clamped between 0 and 1. And after that, we can multiply the value with a powered version of this value. So we will just increase the contrast a little bit, and we will multiply this with this, and then we will multiply this with 0.1. So it will be really dark in the outside. So we will get a look like this. Now we can also get another panel and give a value of 0.2. So the outside texture also move a little bit. So it will add a little bit more detail to it. Now we also need to distort the mesh itself. So we can get a unique look like this one that you can see here. So in order to do that, we can change the vertexes of the sphere itself. So we have this world position offset node. So we can get an add and connect this to the world position. Now we can get a vertex normal. This vertex normal is basically the normals of the vertexes. So it points to different directions on the surface of the sphere. And if we multiply a value with that, since the vertex normals are unit vectors, with the magnitude we can move this in different directions, that is pointing along the normals of the vertex. So now if I get a multiply and another multiply and connect the red channel here and change this value to like 8 and connect this here and connect this to the add, now you can see some distortions happening. If I change this to like 12, it will be more, or like 2200, it will be really big. So I will just set this to like 12 for now. Now click apply. Now we also need to create this dark vortex effect. Now in order to create this dark vortex effect, we can just duplicate our old vortex material, and I will call this dark, then open it up. And here we don't really need two of them, so just delete one of them. And this texture, we need to change this texture to the smoke texture. So for that we can select the texture and then go here and T smoke and select the smoke. So now we get a look like this. So here you can see that it is a bit too bright. We don't really want that. Change this value to like 1, and now multiply this value with itself and multiply this back in with this one. So it will add a bit more darker areas like this. Now click apply. So this is what we want. Now we can just duplicate our magical Niagara system, and I will call this NS Fire Orb. So now I will just bring it in here and open it up, and I will go to the light and just have the red light like that. So it will be red. And now here We don't really need the rings, so just deactivate that. And for the particles, now here we can go to the fountain and we can add some curl noise to it, then increase the value and reduce the speed, and we can go to the scale color and add a reddish color to it like this, maybe like 10. And now we need to stretch this a bit, so go to the sprite render and change the alignment to velocity aligned, and now we can stretch it in the x and y coordinates independently. So now go to the particle update and type in speed, scale sprite size by speed, and now change this value to like 10. That's a bit too much. 5 and 1, it's like 3 and 4, and we can go to the initialize size and set this to 1 and 3. Now go to the scale sprite size and change this to 0.1. So we have something like this. Now we can add our sphere and the vortex. So for the vortex, we can just duplicate this vortex of the streak and add that. So we have a dark color. And here for this one, the streak, we can give a red color. And for the center, this one we can give a red color like this and give a value 0.1 or like 1. So it looks like this. Here for the sphere, we can also tick the mesh render. So we have the mesh again, and we can go to the mesh material and change that to the material we created like this. So we have a look like this. And now go to the initialize particle and go to the color and change this to a red color. So it should be pure red like this. So 200 for red and 0 for G and B. It's the same as our light color. Now we can set the value to like 0.12 or 0.1. I think a better value is like 0.21. We can name the second vortex to smoke, and a good size for this is like 300, and a good color is like 5 for red or like 2 for red. I think it's better to like give a value of 0.7 or like 0.5. Or one more thing we can do is that, and now for the vortex, we can reduce the size of the vortex to like 150, and we can add some color to it. I think this is a bit too bright still, so we can go back to the material and get another multiply. So now it's more dark. Now go to the vortex and change this value to like 210, and now go to the smoke and change the value to like 1 here, and just decrease the brightness. Now for the fountain particle, we can increase the velocity to like 100 and 200, and increase the spawn rate to like 100. So there is a lot of them. I think the center is a bit too bright, so I will go here and change this to like 10, and also the red color here to like 1000, so it's not really too much. So I think for this we might just need to duplicate this one and just untick the light render and the sprite render here, and here just untick the mesh render. We don't really need to duplicate that. And now we can just independently change the color. So here we can change this to like 10, so it's not really too much. And now we can go here and change this to, I think this should be like really big, like 2000 or something like that. Now we are having a better effect. Also, now I think the vortex is too bright. The vortex can be a bit darker too, maybe like a bit yellowish like this. And the smoke can also be a bit yellowish like this, and increase the color. I think that's a bit too much. Okay, I think now we are there. So now we can just improve some things. So first thing I will do is that I will just add some distortion to our electric effect. So if I open the vortex, and now I can open the vortex material, and now here we can add some distortions to this. So our ring material has some distortions, so open that up and then copy all of this. We don't really need the dynamic parameter, and then paste it here. And now we can add this to this one, and for the multiply we can give a value 0.05 and connect this here and click apply. And now you can see some distortions happening like this one. And here for this one we can add the smoke effect we created for this one. So open this one up, and now we can go to our fire orb and we can copy this smoke and paste it here. And for this one we can change the color to like a green one like this, and we can also reduce the size to like 200. Now we have a similar look to this. It just have a different color. You can change the colors to get really different effects. So if I change this pink color to like a blue color, I can get a similar look like this. So I think that's it for the tutorial, guys. Thank you very much for watching. And if you want to download the entire project files, you can support me on my Patreon.